So far now. The rain just stopped after another solid day of downpours, and I thought I just let you know how riparian strips here work with the flooding. So here's a bit of a gap, so I put some more titania in here. The willows are holding the lower end of the bank. Yeah, this strip here, remember I showed you where the geese got into our titania. So this one here looks rather shabby for that reason. But most of the other ones have recovered quite nicely, but you can still see for a riparian strip there's not enough density here still, so we need to replace what didn't do it. And here a while ago this albizia fell over a few months ago, but it's still alive and flowering, and it needs to be cut off and then it will die. So that's what happens to albicias when they get sort of 2-3 years old, like that one or the one in the very far. So in good soils they don't last that long. They just get too top heavy, or the roots start rotting. So you can see this is all broken out here. It looks rotten inside, but then right here is the locuma, which interestingly was planted at the same time as this albizia in the same pot. It had really too much of a hard time, and the reason is that there were actually 2 albicias growing here and actually squeezing that in the center. And one albizia we cut back a year ago, and now this one broke with a fungus. So that means this lukma here, which is like an understory in a forest, a seedling waiting for its turn, now can take off. It will have stored some oomph in it now, and it will go through and explore with its roots the channels of the albizia. We could have started it faster, maybe without these companions. In this case, doesn't look too impressive. But yeah, we have seen others that did much better when it didn't get squeezed by albicias. So only one albizia per young lukma is definitely enough. So here water is already receding. That stream has come across here, leaving some debris, but we could improve on that by putting more grasses in here still. Keep that stream just this much higher than this old stream bed here. So now that it came over into the paddock, it will make its way down into the market garden. But what I want to point out here is you see the dirty water coming out of the forest. Sure, there are slips in the forest as well, otherwise there wouldn't be any hills. But it is quite dirty, just like this water here coming out of the forest. So here see taros, some that we planted only half a year ago, and the bigger ones that are a year old now. And those in the bag might be 2 years old now. Yeah, so they're happy as Larry in a flood like that. So here again, stream comes over and starts spilling back into an ancient stream bed before the previous landowners here 40 years ago put these drainages in. Yeah, before that the stream would meander through these flats, but they were turned into a hay paddock, and the stream artificially kept in a course that it didn't do before. So here's another stream coming from the Kakariki Valley. So two come together around here if it spills, and if not, then down there. Whilst we're here, just show you something crazy here. It's my favorite spot on the farm actually. It's a small remnant of some bush, of course, over the last decades. It would have been grazed by previous owners, but it turned into this sort of funny park landscape. And you see here Totra going together with a Pukatia. And here is a Nikau palm and the Totra. And here, what you can see here, 1, 2, 3 Totras, and the roots are grafted together. So definitely 3 individuum here, but that's what we call root grafting. So that means when roots meet in the soil, they can rub on each other and join. They do that differently than above ground with branches and so on, because there's no wind rubbing on them and keeping them sore all the time. And apparently this root grafting can also happen between different species, but these are the same species, no? So obviously a very happy graft here. Yeah, roots can do that better than trunks and branches. They actually really fuse together. And now think about what our flame trees would be doing on our hillside, on our slope, considering that the flame trees would be all one clone. So they become practically one plant if they do something like that underground, and there's no reason to believe they wouldn't do that. Yeah, so that's just a little beauty area that I like to observe how trees mingle. And of course that is not talking at all yet about what happens with fungal networks. All right, let's have a look at these rows that we did in the old orchard with the sugarcane and the Teutonia. You can see I still haven't pruned it back. Bad. And maybe right now it's a good thing, maybe not, who knows. But you see the stream is a wee bit higher than here, and there are always these little banks between a stream and a neighboring paddock, because when a stream passes over the edge, it drops a lot of the material right there, and that way you get these little dikes along a stream, and then it might go, not always, but it might go down deeper behind it. So if you can keep that water out, it's like same thing as happens with dikes along cities to stop banks, like in New Orleans and so on. Beautiful cocksfoot, you see that's now coming in its own this time of the year. The sturgeons haven't frosted because there was no frost here. And here's direct seeded avocado, which actually can produce here on this normally free draining soil. It's just today where we see surface water, another one. And then we have lukmas here and there, canna lily, row of cocksfoot here. And here we are again. This time I want to show you what it was planned for. So you see here is mainly sugarcane, because that's the major flood channel that goes through this old orchard. So grasses are always better for combing out dirt in the water than other plants. And here, as you remember from other videos, pukekos have harvested the sugarcane, right? And what the pukeko is not doing, unfortunately, we should teach them that, to put it across the flow to harvest more silt for us, right? So we want to put every cutting perpendicular to the flood direction. It comes in like that, right? That's where humans come in. Animals don't seem to get the point. Yeah, so you see all these plantings here slow down the water. And here we come out into the Kaikuyu again. You remember that part? But this time with the water. And here in front of me you can see there was the old stream bed. You can see Kaikuyu here is a bit yellow. Either it's because it has been too long in the water, but I doubt that. Kaikuyu doesn't mind that. It looks to me like this was one of our few frost pockets this winter, and that's why it yellowed. That's my guess. I haven't actually seen the frost here. Maybe I should get up earlier. So yeah, just for the record, this is not our part of the orchard. So old stream bed is now going into the market garden, and you see how dirty it is. Ducks in a new place. Put a lot of bamboo down to stop them making it all muddy. So in here you see the stream coming over the edge further, and this here is our market garden area. So it has gone down already. It was swishing through here before. So most of the water just comes off here in the low part. So this is all quite well drained and at the moment not flooded, but nevertheless there was a lot of water flowing through here, and you see the cocksfoot made some nice barriers. No matter what happens, it would be contained by the cocksfoot. So this is coming out of the old orchard, and now what you see, that water that came in quite dirty has cleared up. Here is our lowest spot in the market garden. Here are the squares. You see how the water is flowing fast over there. Yeah, and that comes out of the stream that I showed you further up, where it's all chocolate colored. And you see it's I don't want to mud it walking on it, but you can see it is almost, you know, it's almost transparent water as it leaves the market garden. So here's a huge difference between entropy and ordinary organic or conventional market gardens. We have such a dense plant cover and fungal networks that the system works like an ecosystem. It takes sediments and nutrients out of the water. It's like a big sponge, a big filter that actually cleans the water rather than muddies the water as you would see below any conventional horticulture production. That's why we have the ground cover. That's why we put the branches against along contour. That's why we have a lot of mulch growing that we can use to protect the soil in heavy rains. Yeah, and see here, even so, if the flood would be a bit higher and then it would start washing over these beds this way, because the flood comes this way, we have living pathways. Here is ryegrass, and here we have cocksfoot, ryegrass. Here's nothing that should be looked at, and then here we have buttercup, but we also got the miscanthus as a last rake, and then we have the fence that catches leaves and grass debris and so on as well. So practically this market garden is still functioning a wee bit like it used to when it was a Raupo wetland. Yeah, maybe not quite as effective, but therefore it has the added bonus that it produces food as well, right? But nevertheless, it's not polluting. You can see water infiltrates. Yeah, we have a good penetration of water. That means it's stored in the landscape for the times when we start complaining about the drought again. And yeah, hopefully we save a lot of water in the landscape, because as some people say, the soil, the landscape is your cheapest water tank. Yeah, so that's something to consider. And of course we do a lot of infiltration up on the hill as well before it even gets down here, and we try to improve on that infiltration compared to what happens in the forest, because we don't see dirty water coming out of our food forests. Water is actually crystal clear coming out of a food forest, and therefore our food forest fulfills that function of cleaning water, preventing runoff, and storing water in the landscape and sending it back up to produce clouds for other regions to rain on. That's a function of a forest, and we believe that our type of food production is coming pretty close to that. So thanks for watching. That's how we do it, and stay in touch, and we see how we get into spring soon.